Hello, everybody. Good morning and welcome. If you hear that, that is my daughter screaming in the background. She's very excited this Friday morning, as am I. My name is Lauren Marino Perez, and I work at the NAT. I'm the Community Engagement Manager there, and I'm also here today with illustrator Susie Ghahremani. How are you doing, Susie?
Hi,
Thanks for being
doing
with us
well.
today.
Thank you for having me.
Good. So we are going to begin our program shortly. In the meantime, now's a great time to go grab supplies. And so, Susie, do you have any recommendations for what people should grab for supplies today?
So I'm just using printer paper and crayons. If you have that at home, that's what I'm using to demonstrate with. Nothing fancy. But you can bring whatever you want. If you have pencils or colored pencils, markers, anything that you like to draw with. And it's helpful to have more than one color.
Ooh, cool. Okay, good tip. That's a good tip to know. And we have a couple of quick polls we're going to run for you. And they're just fun questions, no quizzes, while we wait for everybody to join us. So if you can see them here, the first one is, have you ever drawn an animal before? We're just interested in knowing if you have or haven't. A lot of people haven't, and a lot of people have. So, and then this next one, pick which writing tool you should never draw with. If you think that there is one on the list there or not, you can pick none of the above. And how long do you think it takes to illustrate a picture book? So Susie told me the answer to this, and I was really surprised. And then also, have you ever Zoomed with an owl before? Because after today, you're probably going to be able to say that you have, which is really cool. So just to let everybody know, we are broadcasting live to Facebook. And if you would like to join us and have closed captions, you got live on Facebook. So go to Facebook Live and then select closed captions, and then you're set. Also, you're not going to be able to see your screens and you're muted. So you're not going to be able to see the other people in this webinar, and you're not going to be able to chat with each other. So we want everybody to be able to focus on the presentation. So we've turned off the chat function, but you can ask questions in the questions tab, and we would love to hear any questions you guys have. There's bound to be lots of great questions out there, so don't hold back. All right. So I think it's a couple minutes after 10. We can get started. It's my daughter again saying happy Friday, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Some questions coming in, which is great. I'm glad to see that. Today we're going to start off with reading a book, and then we are going to go into a drawing lesson with Susie, which I'm really excited about. She's amazing, an amazing artist, and she's going to show us how to draw a winter animal, which is an owl. And we're actually going to see that owl in our book as well. And yeah, the book that we're reading today is What Will Grow, and it's about different plants that we can grow and how they start out in the world as like teeny tiny little seeds and the big plants they grow into. And Susie illustrated this book, which is pretty amazing. It's really beautiful. I'm excited to get to share it with you. Susie, can you tell us a little bit about your process for creating this book and how you do the drawings for the book and kind of what an illustrator is and does?
Yeah, this book, it's called What Will Grow, and it's written by Jennifer Ward. And she writes quite a few nonfiction picture books about science. This one has a lot, it's based in nonfiction. That means it's based in fact. So when I made this book, it was a little bit different than some of the other picture books I've made. I had to do a lot of research for it. And one way that the illustrator is the person who interprets the text and creates pictures that continue telling the story. It's not always like we're just drawing a picture of exactly what the words say. It's usually like we're telling our own visual story. So the visual story that I made for What Will Grow was really about the animals that are dependent on plants as well. So it shows the seeds and growing into the plants, but also the environment environments, the different species that are dependent on those plants or interact with them in some way. So I do a lot of my research. I do research all the time anyway, because I'm inspired by nature in general with my artwork. So often when I'm hiking, I'll collect things like pine cones and acorns and different things that end up working their way into my artwork. You can see some here on my desk. I think it's really fun to look for these little treasures. Like here's like the teeny tiniest acorn you've ever seen, and then the biggest one probably right next to it. But going to the gnat is a huge part of my research. I every time I work on a picture book that has some element of nature, I do some research there. And I usually bring a sketchbook. That's where I do my preliminary drawings. I sort of figure out how I'm going to draw what I'm going to draw. So I thought I might share a couple different sketches that I made. And all these sketchbooks, you can get a blank book like this and make it your sketchbook too when you go to the museum and draw things.
Wow.
So I just make simple annotations about the drawings that I'm doing and the different animals or plants that I'm drawing. And it's really just for my own records. It's not something I usually share. And during COVID too, I've done a lot of research and enjoyed programming. Like at the NAT, I went to this bioluminescence workshop, and I also went to one about the Channel Islands, and that kind of makes its way into my sketchbooks too. So basically, to answer your question, the illustrator tells a visual picture alongside the written story in a picture book. And I like to draw from life. I like to see out in the world, to explore nature on my own, and then capture it in my sketchbooks before I do any of the artwork. And all my artwork in What Will Grow is painted. So it's a natural book, so I painted everything on wood. Here's one of the actual paintings from the book. I don't know if you can see the wood grain. Maybe not. Maybe better on the read aloud. You might be able to see it a little bit better.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
But, thank you.
So vibrant. Yeah, it's so neat that you take inspiration from everyday life and that you have your sketchbook with you and you can just capture it right away, just how you want, so you don't forget. Very cool. Well, I think it's probably a good time for us to share the video of our book reading. I know we had promised Miss Rosie today, and unfortunately she couldn't join us, so you're stuck with me. I'll be reading the book, but hopefully you'll still have fun with Susie and I, and we also have another guest, Miss Ashton, and she'll be showing us some owls after the book that you'll be sketching with Susie, and also you'll be learning a bit about the owls, which will be really, really fun. I'm excited to get to learn today. I'm going to be trying to draw right alongside with you guys because it's definitely not my strong suit, but I'm happy to learn from you. So with that, just a reminder, you guys can ask questions in the questions area. I do want to share actually one of the poll questions with you. Susie, so how long does it take to illustrate a picture book typically?
Well, I'm curious what everyone thought. Is there a consensus on the answer?
It was 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, or 3 years. And it was kind of divided almost equally between 3 weeks and 3 months is what most people thought.
It takes 3 years. So there's a lot of research that goes into it and a lot of planning, especially arranging the words on the page with the images is really takes a lot of time to kind of figure out the right pacing on that, which sort of means the flow. And with What Will Grow, as we'll learn when we read it aloud together, it had a special extra feature where on some of the pages extend outwards. So planning for that as well and figuring out how that was going to work with the artwork also took a lot of time. So from the time that I begin working on the book to when I finish, it's 3 years. Wow,
that's amazing. And then some of the other poll results are, so have you ever drawn an animal before? And most people have, which is that's exciting. They're going to have some experience they can bring. And 11% of people haven't. So that will be really fun. This will be their first foray into it. Their first time drawing an animal, and you get to draw from an actual real animal, which is super cool. And then to the question, pick which writing tool you should never draw with. So 15% of people said pencils, 39% said pen, 22% said crayon, and 23% said none of the above. And Susie, as an artist, what is the answer to this question?
You can draw with whatever you want. There's nothing is off limits when you're drawing. So
Yeah,
you can see behind me, a lot of my drawing tools are pencils and pens. I use markers and crayons, just like everybody at home probably does. And I have some
very
fancier
cool.
supplies too, just because I'm a professional, but you don't need fancy supplies. Anyone can make art with anything.
Very cool. Yeah, that was kind of a trick question.
Yeah.
Just wanted to get people thinking about, art and opening their minds to different ways of using materials that they maybe thought they couldn't before. And then the really fun question, have you ever Zoomed with an owl before? So 6% of people said yes, which I'm like, wow, very cool. I'm surprised by that. I thought it was going to be like 0%. 80% of people said no, and then 14% of people said maybe. So they're just not sure. So we're going to,
Sometimes people's cameras are off and you don't know if they're an owl. They might be.
that's very true. Yeah. Especially if you hear a lot of like, ooh, ooh, ooh. It could definitely be an owl. It's a good sign you're Zooming with an owl. Let's see here. So at the end of this, everybody will be able to say they have Zoomed with an owl. So we're going to be changing that to 100%. Very cool. So I'm going to close the polls now. And just a reminder, this is a good time if you don't have whatever drawing implement you want to use, go ahead and grab that and pencil, like pencil, paper, crayon, marker, and get ready. And we're going to go ahead. I'm going to play you a video of myself reading the book, because that just works better to do it that way. Also, if you're just joining us and you'd like to have closed captioning, you can watch us on Facebook Live and select closed captioning there. And we've got a lot of good questions coming in, so we'll get to those after we read our book. So here we go, and we'll see you guys back here in a couple minutes. Enjoy. Hi, my name is Lauren Marina Perez, and I'm a Community Engagement Manager at the NAT. And today I'm going to read a really fun book with you. It's called What Will Grow, and it's all about what will grow. It's all about seeds and what they grow into, the plants they grow into. So read along with me and see if you can guess what these seeds grow into as plants. And this book is by Jennifer Ward and illustrated by Susie Ghahremani. All right, here we go, our first page. Rolly round, rain-soaked ground, what will grow? Bees! I love bees, they're so good. Oh, and look, we've got a little worm and a little ladybug beetle. Seeds sow in a row. What will grow? Seeds look like? What do these sprouts look like? Ooh, lettuce. Little mice are enjoying their lettuce. Can't blame them. Lettuce is delicious. Ooh, shiny brown. Bumpy crown. What will grow? An acorn. What does an acorn grow to? Does anybody know? A mighty oak tree. Oh, look at how beautiful. This tiny little guy becomes this big tree. And the squirrels are having fun. Ooh, this is one of my favorites. Fluffy white, taking flight. What will grow? A dandelion. Does anybody ever get to blow those when they're walking around and they find them? I love to blow dandelions. We've got a little bee here, and our lady bird beetle is back. Very tiny, then so viney. What will grow? Tomato. Wow. Yep, they vine up and they get really big. A fox dining on one, a caterpillar, and our little beetle friend. And also, look at how tiny those seeds are. Wow. The tomatoes. Stripy black, crunchy snack. Bird's enjoying a snack. What will grow? Do these seeds look familiar to anybody? How about the sprouts? Let's see. Oh, a sunflower. How beautiful. That's a really pretty one. Soft hairy on the prairie. What will grow? Milkweed. And we have a monarch on our milkweed. Monarchs need milkweed, and it's really important for our monarchs. We should all plant some milkweed for monarchs, I think. Peck, peck, peck. Dark speck. Tiny little speck. What will grow? An apple tree. You'll see apple seeds when we eat apples. That little birdie is chowing down. Oval flat, soon fat. What will grow? A pumpkin! That little raccoon is taking time to smell the flowers. How beautiful. Look at those. You guys know pumpkin seeds, little pepitas that you eat. Flowery fruit, orange root. What will grow? Carrot. Oh, Bunny's munching down. There's our little beetle. The beetle friend is back. Beige bead. Chunky seed. What will grow? A radish. These little guys become radishes. The little chipmunk is enjoying them. Snug tight, paper light. Ooh. Pine cone. What will grow? Oh, beautiful pine tree. Look, there's a snowy owl and a deer enjoying the tree. Wow, beautiful. Dark deep, fast asleep. What will grow? We have a little mole here, and look at all these seeds. Seeds upon seeds upon seeds. All buried, waiting to grow. Little worms, little ants in there. Let's see, what will grow? My garden! Wow, isn't that beautiful? And all those seeds grow into plants. Look at all the animals that come to enjoy them. And we get to enjoy them too. Make a nice big salad. So I really like this book because in the very back, it has even more information about all the seeds in here, when to grow them, how long it'll take for them to grow, and just how to grow them. So it's really fun, and I highly recommend it. And we're lucky in San Diego because we can grow things here all year long in our climate. But you'd be surprised, you can grow stuff all year long all over the world indoors. So check out some seeds and start planting. Thanks for joining me, everybody. Have a good day. All righty. So we have so that was our beautiful book, What Will Grow. And so you drew all of those amazing, amazing pictures. And I can see why it took 3 years. There's a lot going on in that book, and it's just beautiful. So thank you for letting us share it with everybody and read it.
Thank you for reading it. And I just wanted to add too that I live here in San Diego also. So some of those plants, maybe we don't grow as often here in San Diego or don't see as often. So I did some research just to even learn about them.
Very cool. That's exciting. And do you go to places like the Nat and the library? Where do you do your research?
Yeah. Oh, I'm seeing something here. Oh, never mind. I thought that was a message to us that they couldn't see or hear us. I'm glad you can see and hear us. Yeah, I go to the Nat. I go to different botanical gardens. I go to the zoo. I love to go to the library. That's where I do a ton of my research too. Is just to learn more, even just about subjects that interest me, even if I'm not making a book about them.
Very fun. Well, I know people, I can see in the Q&A, people are excited to get drawing. So I'm actually going to turn off my camera and I'm going to turn it over to you and Miss Ashton. And so we can show our special guests that you guys are going to be drawing from. And
Sounds
I'll
good.
pop in here and there if I have questions. So.
Okay. Miss Ashton, are you there?
I am. Good morning, Miss Susie.
Hi.
So I loved the book and we have some great questions coming in for you, but I'm going to turn on my camera so we can see our special guests here.
Okay, and if there's a question I should answer at any point or that we can answer together, just feel free to bring it up whenever.
Sure. So I'll just go ahead and bring up a couple as I'm turning this on. Ernie wants to know, what is your favorite animal?
I have so many favorite animals, but I actually think an owl might be my favorite, which is so fun because that's what we're going to draw today. But I like a lot of different animals. Have you ever heard of a leafy sea dragon, Ernie? That's an animal I really like too. Oh, they're wonderful. They have a leafy sea dragon. They have, I think, 2 of them at the Birch Aquarium, and it's hard to believe that they're even real. They're so beautiful. So that might be something you want to look up later today.
Yes, absolutely. Paulette wants to know, what kinds of things have you been drawing lately?
Lately, I actually have a lot of my recent paintings up here on the shelf. I paint really tiny. I've been painting a lot of foxes this year, and I've been painting them. One thing that's really cool about being an artist is you can make creative choices that may not exist in life. So my foxes have been very strange colors. There's a little painting of a pink fox on the shelf there. I don't know if you can see it, but yeah, I like playing with color and the natural world together. So there's a pink fox.
I love that. Kevin says that he wishes one day he could be an artist, and I bet you could, Kevin.
Kevin, I bet you already are an artist. That's the thing is, and if you make art, you're an artist.
Awesome. Amy says, how long does it take to publish a book that you illustrate?
It takes a few years. I think we might have covered that a little bit, but 3 years, probably around 3 years for my work on the book. And then the author usually has gotten started even before that.
Very nice. So I've got a few more, Miss Susie, but if you want to get drawing, I can hold them off till later. It's up to you.
Why don't we start drawing? I'm having a little bit of an issue where I can't see both screens at the same time. So there's a little technical glitch. I'm sure we're all experiencing these every time we use Zoom, but hopefully I'll try and just pin this. Can I pin this? No, I can't. Okay, this might be a problem, but we'll deal with it as it comes up. Because if I can't see the owl, then I can't really draw him. But right now I can see the owl, and he's really cool looking. You have more than one owl here.
Yes.
So I see the snowy owl here. That's what was featured in the book on the pine tree spread, was a snowy owl. And I like seeing, I think that he blends in really well with the snow, obviously, because of his white coloring, right?
That's exactly right. And something that I read was that the males and females are hard to tell the difference, but the males will actually get that bright white color while the females stay a little bit more brown.
Maybe so they blend better with the nest in the tree.
Yeah, I love that.
Miss Susie, this is Lauren. I'm gonna turn off your camera, so hopefully it'll just be your crayons and your drawing and the owls.
I don't think that is necessarily the solution because I can see the cameras turned off as well. But we'll just deal with if it becomes an issue, then I'll I don't know what I'll do. But I think we'll just keep going and hopefully it'll work out. Can everybody else see the owl? Is there a way to see reactions or anything? I just want to make sure everyone can see the owl.
Let's see what people are saying. Yes.
Okay.
People are saying
I'm
they
so
can
glad.
see it and I can see it. So I don't know.
Okay.
Might be able to spotlight it.
Yeah. Okay, we'll keep going. So right now I see the snowy owl. He has some really interesting feet I just want to point out that I'm noticing here. Those are extremely feathery feet. They almost look furry. They're so feathery. I think it's just delightful that we get to Zoom with an owl. So does everybody have their drawing materials in front of them? I'm going to tell you how we're going to draw together. And this is, some of you may be really experienced at drawing, but maybe it's new for you to be drawing from what you're actually seeing. And for those of you who are just drawing for the first time, hopefully this will make it really easy for you. So what we're going to do is first we're going to look at the owl and find the basic shapes. Then we're going to look for patterns and features that need to be drawn individually, and then we'll look for the relationship between those patterns and details. So it's kind of 3 steps. First, we're going to look at the basic shapes, then we're going to look at patterns and features, then we're going to look at the details of how they relate. And I'll show it to you, so I won't just tell you about it. But for example, right now we're looking at the basic shape of the snowy owl, and he's got a really round head. Can you see my drawing table before I start drawing? Are you able to see this?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
We're seeing that.
Okay, so like if this is the basic shape of the snowy owl head, it's just kind of an oval. Let's take a look at the horned owl. That's the other owl. He's got horns. Okay, so his head shape is just a little bit different. With your drawing materials, if you could grab 2 different colors, then we'll just use one color to draw the basic shapes, and then we'll use the other color to draw in the actual owl over the basic shapes. So here, the horned owl has kind of a bigger, maybe more rounded head. He's got a really distinct arching eyebrow that's coming down. So that's kind of like the basic shape right there of his head. And then can we see his whole body, Miss Ashton, please? Okay.
Yeah, while you're looking at that, Miss Susie, it looks like a lot of people are very curious about whether these are real owls. And the answer to that is yes, these are real owls. They are no longer alive. They're museum specimens. But the cool thing is that now that we have them here, we're able to look at them up close in ways that we wouldn't be able to do in the wild or even at the zoo. So in a way, it's a little bit creepy, but it's also like they're getting a second chance at life, and we're able to learn from their awesome features this morning.
Cool. So here I've drawn some of the basic shapes, and you can find the ones that interest you here, but I drew the head as kind of like a circle, and then the horned owl eyebrow kind of cluster. I don't know what that's officially called, but as sort of an arc here. Then the whole body as an oval. Then I noticed, and I don't know if you noticed this too, but this owl kind of has pants. So I kind of drew the pants as ovals. Look at those pants. Those are owl pants. And then there's 3 toes that come forward. Now I know that the owl actually has 4 toes, but one we can't really see. It's in the back, right? So I'm just drawing the basic shapes here. And then also the wing kind of comes forward as an oval on his side. So I drew, and from the angle that we were at before, I could only see one wing. So I drew one oval because I'm basing it on what I'm seeing. So now that we have the basic shapes, maybe I'll, if we could just hold it at the angle for a moment, we'll make sure that everybody has the basic shape down, and then we'll get ready to go to the next part. So does everybody have their basic shapes down? That's step 1. Are we all ready to move on? Let's take a look at some of these details. So I'm interested in the difference between the horned owl's eyes and the snowy owl's eyes, because it looks like the snowy owl, we can see his whole eyes pretty much. He has a lot of feathers on his face, but the horned owl, it's like this part on his head, this arc here kind of obstructs his eyes a little. So we can draw just part of the eyes maybe coming out from, it almost looks like he's kind of angry. So I'm gonna draw in some eyes like that. Oh, he does look kind of angry there. And then the horned part, those are just feathers, right, Miss Ashton?
They are feathers where he gets his name. They sort of look like ears, but they're not the actual ears themselves. So a fun fact about owl ears is that they're not completely lined up with each other. They're kind of uneven, and that allows them to hear from all different angles. They really need to hear well to find their food.
That is so interesting. So here I've drawn kind of an upside down teardrop for his nose. That seems to be the shape of that. But he kind of has some feathers, it looks like, around his nose, kind of arching down like that. And then what about his wings? If we look at his wings, what is the overall pattern of those feathers? They look like they're kind of shorter at these outer edges. So I'm going to just draw these arcs for these feathers, but then they're kind of longer as they come down. You see in my drawing how I'm drawing them longer, like what we're seeing there? And then what about under his chin? What does it look like there? What patterns and features do we see there? It looks like he's kind of got these arcs around his eyes like this, but then under his chin, it's kind of fluffy, like that. And what about on his chest? What kind of patterns are we seeing there? Oh, a lot of patterns. He's kind of got these squiggly lines. Can you see what I'm drawing? I'm drawing these squiggly lines in, and they just extend right across his owl pants. I don't think that's the scientific term for what I'm seeing, but
those stripes, Miss Susie, is actually too where it gets one of its nicknames. So great horned owls are nicknamed tiger owls because of those stripes, and also because they're fierce predators.
Cool. All right. Then we have these toes. Let's take a look at those. Let's see. They're kind of feathery, and they're bigger than here, the basic shape. I just drew a line, but they're not a line. So let's go ahead and draw in those toes as like a full toe. But then at the end is a pretty long claw. So you can draw that in also. All right. Just going over some of my shapes. Can we see from the side, do we see the tail at all? Yeah, we do. So we can draw that in. Now those tail feathers look really different than the wing feathers. Miss Ashton, do you know why that is?
I'm not sure exactly why they look different, but they do have a much different job. The tail feathers of an owl are kind of like the brakes. As it's flying around, they can help stop them and also move them in different directions. So they're like the steering for the owl, versus the wings are like the engine.
Cool. Well, I drew here, as I was drawing the tail, I noticed that the feathers are kind of flat at the bottom. So I drew the basic shape of a feather with it being kind of a little bit more square at the bottom. But then as I was drawing that, I noticed that there's different striping on the wing feathers than the tail feathers. The tail feathers have really broad, big, thick stripes. And then the wings have more, what would you call that pattern, Miss Ashton?
Maybe speckled?
Speckled. I think that's a good word for it. So maybe we can draw in some of those speckles and fill in so that the wings look different as they do on this owl from the tail. Okay. So let's take a look at the top of the head, because I think I remember that that was darker too. Whoa, he's got a lot of speckling there. And he also has some stripes at the back of his head. So what we can do is draw stripes at the back of his head like that, but then bring in the speckling, and you could just kind of scribble for the speckling there, so that it's going from stripes to speckling like this. Okay. Can we see his eyes again? So what are the feathers doing around his eyes? Because I haven't filled in this area of his face at all. Miss Ashton, how would you describe that?
They look like if the eye's the center, they're kind of coming off in a spiral from the eyes.
That's what I was thinking too. So we can kind of draw a spiral by making the lines arc around the eyes. And maybe I noticed too that the owl has dark lines around his eyes, so we could accentuate that again too. And then does he have all the feathers around his beak like the snowy owl did?
Not quite as thick, but he does have them coming towards his beak. I imagine if we had something like that, it would be really tickly.
I think so, yeah. So then let's take a look at his neck. I know an owl rotates his head all the way around pretty much. So how do we see his head and his body separately there? Are they, it looks like there's a little, oh, go ahead, Miss Ashton.
Yeah, if you look closely, you can see that little dent there between his head and his chest. It's kind of hard to see the difference, but there's that little dent in the side.
I see it. So here on our drawing, where we have the basic shape of the head and then the basic shape of the body, we can kind of create a little indentation there by joining them softly with an arc like that. So then we know that his head is turning there, but when we see our owl drawing, it's a little bit more subtle, like how it is on the owl. Okay. So what's happening just under his chin? It looks like there's some darkness here on his chest. What is happening there? Is it just how there's a white patch just under his chin? So we can kind of leave, well, if you don't mind, Miss Ashton, we'll, let's see the whole owl from the front here.
Sure.
Okay, so it looks like there's at the bottom here where his chin is on the drawing, it's actually kind of dark, so we can shade that in. There's a little stripe there of feathers. And shading means you can, with a crayon, you can press hard like that and get a dark color, or you can do it very softly and get a light color out of the same crayon. So we're gonna press really hard to make it dark where it's dark on the owl, like this. But then we can press really light and make it light in the other parts of the owl. Where it is right here though, that looks like that's white. But I see a shape that kind of looks like this on the owl's chest. Do you guys see that? So we can draw in, remember our 3 steps. The first is the basic shapes, which we drew. Then we seek patterns and features. So this might be a feature when it has distinctive markings or special markings. And then the last step here is that we look for the relationships between things, like how we look for the relationship between the head and the body here and kind of soften that curve there. Or here, how about the owl pants and the feet? What's the relationship between those two things? Are the pants separate from the feet, Miss Ashton? Are we looking at, do they kind of blend? They're kind of separate, aren't they?
They are, and I just want to say I love the thought of owl pants.
Maybe we can all wear owl pants the next time we Zoom with an owl.
Yeah, they look super comfy.
So here, I think I'm pretty much done with my simple drawing of an owl. And here I might take some artistic license and change some of the details in my sketchbook when I'm drawing it, maybe add some more color or get more into the shading or try to draw things around it. Like here, he's standing on little piles of wood. I could introduce that. That also might be something that you want to do when you're drawing the basic shapes, is you could kind of draw other parts of his environment here. You could change the colors too, because you're an artist, so you can make your owl green if you want to. It doesn't have to be exactly how it is in real life. But I see that this owl is a really distinctive color of brown, and I'm thinking that maybe it's because he needs to blend in to something like this. You know, he's pretty much like the color of this pine cone that I'm holding here. Like maybe he's colored this way to blend in with trees. So maybe if you're doing a painting or a drawing of an owl and trees, maybe the tree is going to be a similar color to the owl, or you could change it and make it all however you would like. So just to recap here, I'm going to draw this really quickly, but you already know this, so you don't have to follow along quite as much. But just looking at the owl that's on screen right now, we found the basic shapes. So that was like, we found the head, we found the arc of his face, we found the oval of his body, we found the oval of his wing. We noticed that he had pants, so he kind of had these ovals here. We had his toes, like this. There were only 3 visible. We can see the tail just a little bit like that. So we found the basic shapes. That was step one. Then we found the patterns and features that we wanted to draw. So we had the teardrop nose, the eyes. We had the patterns of his wings being longer at the bottom. We had the patterns of the different lines across his body that gave him a nickname of being like a tiger, right? We found the details of how his toes were kind of bigger, but then he had talons at the end. I think that was the word I meant to use instead of claws. We found the relationship between shapes then, like how his head and his body were joined, how his legs were separate from his claws. We found the different shading and coloring of this owl. And that's pretty much how you can draw anything that you're looking at in real life. You can just find the basic shapes, seek the patterns and the features, and then look at the details and the relationships between them. So that's it. I wanted to add also that if you drew an owl, you can hashtag and share it at hashtag the Nat, or you can also tag SDNHM. That's San Diego Natural History Museum. We really call it just the Nat, but you can share and tag your drawings of your owls or anything else that you've learned to draw with this method that way. So I also just wanted to say a couple different things, just a reminder. You can draw with anything. If you have crayons, you can draw with crayons. If you have markers, you can draw with markers. You can draw with paint. You don't just have to paint, you know, shapes with paint. You can use it to paint lines even, or details like this. You can use any materials however you want, and there's no rule that says that you can only use crayons in a coloring book. You can use them however you want. I keep crayons at my desk as well. Sketchbooks are great, like what I shared with you. The sketchbooks that I use when I'm learning or when I'm traveling, they're really great because you can bring them with you anywhere and you can take notes in them too. So if you want to learn, like let's say if this were in my sketchbook, I might have said that it's also nicknamed the tiger, and I might have made a label about that. And you can take them with you when you travel too. These are some drawings that I did when I was at the Natural History Museum in New York. So they're really great because you can bring them with you really anywhere. And the other thing too that I just wanted to share is that the way that I feel is that nature gives us a lot of inspiration to work with and a lot of real cool stuff to start with. So if you're ever wondering what you can draw, maybe just take a walk outside or take a look outside and see what you see. Maybe you'll find the next thing you want to draw there.
That is awesome, Miss Susie. Your drawing looks so good.
I love it. This is Lauren. I think it looks amazing. And we have maybe a couple more minutes if you guys want to answer a few more questions. I know we had some issues, unfortunately, with some people not being able to see the drawing, but if they can see it now, I hope they're able to do their own sketch. And is Tiger the name of the drawing? The name of the
I was just making a note. I actually already forgot. Miss Ashton, can you repeat the nickname of this owl?
Absolutely. So because of those stripes, the great horned owl is also nicknamed the tiger owl, but it's also a very fierce predator. So it gets its name from that as well.
So yeah, you can make any note of anything that interests you. It's not like you have to learn anything when you're drawing it in particular. So you can just write down the things that you want to remember that interest you.
I did have a couple more questions, Miss Susie, that I saved. Amy would like to know, oops, let's see, we did that one. Romero would like to know, what is your first picture book that you ever illustrated?
The first picture book, so I've made a lot of books before I made picture books. The first picture book that I illustrated was called What Will Hatch, and that's about the different animals that hatch from eggs, and it's also written by Jennifer Ward. It has some surprising animals in there that you might not know hatch from eggs, like crocodiles and a platypus.
Ooh, interesting. Naz would like to know, what is it like being an artist?
Ooh, that is a question I can get really philosophical about, but it's actually really fun. Being an artist is really fun. It's also really challenging because I think you always have to think of the most creative way to solve a problem. It's ultimately you're always solving problems as an artist, but it's fun and it's hard work both.
Very nice. And Jessica says, when did you start being an artist?
Well, I started when I was a kid. I really think that that's when I think that you're most creative when you're a kid. So, and it's harder to do when you're an adult to be as creative as kids are. I think that they're the best example of being creative. So I've been an artist since I was a kid. I just never stopped. And I've been a professional artist. I went to college for art. I went to the Rhode Island School of Design. I studied illustration and I graduated in 2002. So I've been a professional artist for almost 20 years.
That's amazing. I have a couple of friends who went to RISD too.
Cool.
Really cool. All right, I know it's almost time, so I'll go ahead and pass it back to Miss Lauren.
Yeah, thank you. Let's turn my video back on. Thank you, Miss Ashton. And thank you so much, Susie. That was just amazing. We had such a lovely time with you drawing, and I did draw an owl, and I actually think it's the best owl I've ever drawn, which I mean is not saying much. Kind of has googly eyes,
great.
but I feel pretty good about it. So thank you.
Oh, I'm so glad.
I'm gonna keep practicing, right? I think I'll get better each time. So thanks so much for showing us how to draw an owl. And in our chat, we have included Miss Susie's a link to her website, so you can check out more of her art and more of the books that she's done and other fun things that she has available, because she has all sorts of fun things. It's called Boy Girl Party, right?
Yeah, I have a website, boygirlparty.com, and I use Boy Girl Party as my username on things like TikTok and Instagram too.
Perfect. That's so great. And I've also put a link in the chat to where you can see what other museum specimens we have that you can check out, like the owls. We're going to be visiting that place in next month, actually, which is really exciting. I'm sorry. So that'll be really fun. And we'll get a behind the scenes tour in January, and you can learn about that on our website too, which is also in there. And any final thoughts or final words, Susie? We really appreciate you joining with us today, and you just did an amazing job. I love the owl drawing.
Thank you so much. And you know, I could draw owls or anything all day. So as people are exiting, maybe we could look at the snowy owl and just keep drawing that until everyone's left the Zoom or everyone's done drawing owls. Because we didn't draw the snowy owl yet, but we could using the same technique without as much guidance, I guess. So yeah, I just wanted to remind everybody that there's inspiration in nature. You can draw with anything. Sketchbooks can go with you anywhere at all. Making a picture book often begins with research, and some of the research I do is just learning how I'm going to draw something like this. And as an artist, you can do whatever you want with your drawing. So there's no wrong way to draw. And there's no wrong way to use color or to use line or shading or anything. It's just you get to make a choice every time you do any of those things. So have fun drawing. And if anybody also is new to drawing animals and felt a little overwhelmed, I recommend Ed Emberley's How to Draw books for kids too.
Very cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And thanks to everybody for joining us. My dog's going. I just wanted to say happy, safe holidays to everybody, and thank you. Thanks, Susie.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thanks, Ashton. Thanks, Emma. Bye.